So value selling, right, is a function that some B2B, SaaS companies leverage in order to help their customers make a purchasing decision. So maybe just your take on how that looks to you, and we can get into it in a little bit more detail after that.
What do you mean on how that looks to me?
Like so there's organizations, there's a lot of software companies out there. Their responsibility as a company is to sell software. And they do that in different ways. They have their own sales framework, they have their own approach. Some organizations in the business of selling software have value engineers or value consultants. To the best of my knowledge, those two terms are used interchangeably, but they have value teams. Usually these value teams are a bit smaller. They employ them to help customers make a purchasing decision, right? Like you said earlier, when you have a value engagement, I call it value engagement with a customer, you're doing it for them and not necessarily for the business. It can be a win-win, right? You can help them make a purchasing decision while also representing your organization to like bring more revenue in. I think the reason why I would say it's a win-win is we want, as an organization, I would want to have customers who are bought into what I have. And I think value selling, value engagements, building business cases is a way to maybe weed out the customers that maybe we shouldn't have and filter in the customers that we should have, the people who are willing to engage in that type of process. But not all software companies employ value consultants or value engineers. So maybe just, what a value team looks like or why value teams exist, and maybe get into a little bit about, as a value consultant yourself, how you go about your day-to-day or work with customers or work within the organization.
Very, very good question. The point you make on the role of a value team, and as you said, value consultant, value engineering, you might have value engineering coming a lot from people that have an SAP background, because SAP was very strong for its value engineering practice. And a lot of the value leaders around the world have some SAP background in the past. So the real value indeed is to help customers make a decision. We know that about 80% of B2B purchase decisions require some form of business case. So there's always a CFO that needs to be there and that need to give their blessing to the investment. And if, as a software vendor who should know, in our case, the value of their solution, but it could be for any industries, when you're a vendor, you know the value of your technology, you know where you had success, and you should be able to explain that value and be able to help your client actually justify the value internally. And what a value team does, it's first of all building the value models. So really being able, for example, to identify what is the impact of my product / solution / service on cost, on revenue, on risk, on productivity, compliancy. It can be different areas. And within actually each one of those buckets is, let's say I'm looking at revenue growth and how my technology can help. Then does my solution help to drive more sales, more conversions, or does it help to increase the value of sales that we do? Does it increase the frequency of sales for my clients? So the first job of a value team is really to clarify that, work closely with the product marketing team to make that as part of the messaging. And then it's part of its job as well to educate the salespeople onto having those conversations, being able to explain in plain English, how does the product, solution, service drive that value for their clients. And we see different kind of models. We have organizations where they have a very large value team, and then you might have one value consultant for 5 or 10 sales reps working on deals. But you might have organizations which are very centralized, where they actually build a value model and then they educate the sales teams and pre-sales teams to use the models themselves. And so instead of bringing a value consultant to the table to sit down and build a business case, the sales or the pre-sales person will be actually building a business case using the methodology and some of the tools like an ecosystem or a MediaFly or Shark Finesse, which are some of the vendors of those technologies, to build those business cases. And then the value team can then focus in those cases on more of the strategic and transformational deals. and having the rest of the sales team actually run the standard size deals and try to make a business case, in this case, part of the value proposition.